Let's just give all the Oscars to Mank. That's it. We're done. What is up, guys? I'm Ken with Mid-Level Media, and I am back again for a review of Mank, a new Netflix film that just came out a couple of weeks ago. I watched it this morning, and I've got some thoughts on this film that I want to share with you all. But before I start the review, I want to go ahead and ask you guys, if you haven't yet, if you are just now discovering me on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Become a subscriber of the Mid-Level Media channel. I do all kinds of great content on this channel centered around the world of physical media, movies, Blu-rays, 4Ks, all of that awesome stuff. So definitely check out this channel. Hit the subscribe button. Also, guys, comment down below if you've seen Mank, if you've got some thoughts, share them down below. I would love to open up a conversation and talk about this film. And also be sure to hit that like button. Every single like will help this video move it up through those YouTube algorithms and help get more eyes on it. So let's get into this review, guys, because this film is directed by David Fincher. It is written by his father, Jack Fincher, and stars Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried, and Charles Dance, and it recounts the life of Herman J. Mankiewicz through the lens of old Hollywood as he attempts to write the classic script of Citizen Kane for Orson Welles in just 60 days. Alright guys, so first off, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. I'm going to let you guys know how I felt on the film before I go into my positives, what I'm in the middle on, what my negatives are to give my final score. So I just want to say this before I start talking about the movie. I love this movie. I honestly did. This to me, I mean, coming right off of it, I just watched it, finished it like an hour ago. I love this movie. This might be my favorite movie of 2020, if I'm being honest. I absolutely love this movie. I was completely engrossed in this movie. Everything about it I loved, it from the acting to the cinematography to the direction. Everything was freaking fantastic in this movie. Now, this is a very different kind of Fincher film, which makes sense when you think about it, because this film was actually written by his father, which is something I didn't know until after finishing the film, and I started doing a little bit of research before I went into this review. This movie was written by his father in the 90s when David Fincher was just starting his career in directing. I think around the same time he directed Alien 3, actually. And so this is a very personal project for David Fincher to kind of finish his father's work and bring his script to realization. So that's why I think it's a very different kind of Fincher film. This isn't your traditional Fincher film that we have come to expect from this director over time. This is a personal project. This is something that he took on that is very tonally different, that is very distinctively different from anything this director has ever done before. And in my opinion, it pays off. You know, I love David Fincher. I love a lot of his films. I love his style. But him tackling this kind of material, bringing his kind of unique flair to it, I don't know, the mix of aesthetics and stuff and tones and styles, it really just worked for me and clicked. And you could tell that this is a David Fincher film, like direction-wise, it just feels very different from anything he's ever done before. And I love it for that it feels so different than your ordinary David Fincher film. But let's go ahead and get into my positives of this movie, guys. And I'm going to break this down like positives, what I'm kind of split on, and then I'm going to go into my negatives at the end. So first off, guys, I have many positives with this movie. Like I said, I love the movie. Direction and cinematography are absolutely stunning in this film. It is filmed in black and white, so it seems to be a trend with, like we had with a lot of movies in recent years. We have The Lighthouse, we have Roma. A lot of these prestige films are going back to this black and white aesthetic, and I think it really works for this movie because another big positive of this movie, guys, this film takes place in old Hollywood. It is centered around old Hollywood, the inner workings of old Hollywood, all the politics and stuff that went on in that era. And it not only feels like a movie that takes place in old Hollywood, it feels like a movie that was made back in the day in the best way possible. I'm not saying that as a slight at all. I'm not saying that it feels like an old movie, that it feels like an out-of-date movie. I'm just saying when you watch it, it feels like a movie that could have been made back in the day. Everything from like the score, sound design, the set design, the performances, they all feel very old Hollywood to me, which was awesome because a lot of these movies that are set back in this time period, you can tell that these are people that are actors, that they're acting like they are from back in the day, back 80, 90 years ago. This movie, it feels like these are actors that actually acted back in that day, if that makes any sense at all. And I loved it for that. I love that period piece setting. I'm just a sucker for like old Hollywood. I've been watching a lot of classic movies this year. Coincidentally enough, I watched Citizen Kane for the first time this year back in January. I actually did a video on this channel back in January, where I talked about Citizen Kane, I talked about Sunset Boulevard, some old classic movies. You can go all the way back and check that out if you want to. I might link that in the description below. But I really love Citizen Kane. That's a phenomenal film. To me, I gave it like a 10 out of 10. I love that movie. So yeah, I've been watching a lot of old Hollywood movies this year. So this movie just really resonated with me on that level. I found it so engrossing, some of the dialogue and some of the scenes where people were just sitting around talking about politics and stuff, and they were bringing in like real life things that were going on in the political landscape back then. You have Upton Sinclair, that's a prominent figure during this time, kind of making his rise and bringing his, socialism and stuff into the mix, into the American politics, and how people were very resistant to that at that time, especially in old Hollywood, which is interesting now because you see the shift. Gary Oldman in this movie, another huge positive, guys. You got to give this guy Best Actor. I thought he was good in Darkest Hour a few years ago. I did not think he deserved the Oscar for Best Actor back then. He absolutely, to me, as of right now, and granted 2020 hasn't been like the best year for movies and stuff, but he absolutely deserves this award for Best Actor in this movie. He is freaking phenomenal in this movie. You know, to be honest, all the performances in this movie I love. They're all great. Amanda Seyfried is great. Charles Dance is great in this movie. The guy that plays Orson Welles in this movie, that is like perfect casting. I think the guy's name is Tom Burke. Freaking awesome as Orson Welles in the movie. He's not in it very much, but when he is in it, it's like a spitting image of Orson Welles. Just every way that he moves and talks is great. But like I said, the dialogue is so engrossing and captivating. I loved every scene of them talking. You can tell this film has a political message to it, but it doesn't at any point in time feel like it's really leaning towards one end of the spectrum or the other, to me at least. It doesn't feel heavy-handed at all. I was able to get a sense of what the director was trying to say without feeling like I was being beat over the head with any particular message, which was nice. Changed the pace to like normal Hollywood movies nowadays. As for what I'm split on, guys, I am split on a couple of things with this movie. So for one, and this is just my own personal preference, I was hoping that there would be a little bit more of the actual production side of Citizen Kane, actually them making the movie involved in this film, and there was none, to be honest with you. There was all the stuff leading up with Gary Oldman writing the script and all the events of that going on, and then there was the aftermath with the awards, which is the very end of the movie, but there was nothing with the actual production of the film, which I would have liked to have seen at least a little bit of, maybe 10-15 minutes of the actual production. So, but that's just not the movie they were making. I understand that, I respect that, but it's just something I'm a little mixed on there. Another thing is the time jumping element of this movie. It plays like, one of those non-linear stories that goes back and forth. It's constantly jumping from Mankiewicz as he's writing the script for Citizen Kane, like in 1940, and then it's going back to like the 30s and going through all his entire career and his relationship with Charles Dance's character and Amanda Seyfried, and how their relationships kind of advance the narrative as he goes to present time again. And it jumps back and forth a lot. And honestly, it's a good way to tell a story, but it feels just kind of played out at this point. A lot of people tell stories in this type of way, and it played out more like a narrative storytelling gimmick than an actual like cohesive way to tell this story. But that's just my opinion. As for my negatives, my only real negative with this movie, and I have almost none, is that I would have liked the relationship between him and his wife explored a little bit more than it actually was. And there is a nice little scene towards the end where they kind of have a good exchange, but I would like to have seen that played out and explored just a little bit more. As for a score, I'm giving this a 9.5 out of 10. I thought this movie was excellent. This is a must watch. If you have Netflix, which most everybody does, definitely give this movie a watch. This is the best Netflix original film of the year, by far, with what comes in second being The Devil All the Time is probably my second favorite Netflix movie of the year. But, in a year where Netflix for me is kind of missed in their movie department, it's nice to see a hit. And yeah, like I said, this is probably my favorite movie of 2020. I love this movie. With that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the review. So if you like this type of content, if you like reviews like this, go ahead and drop me a like. Leave me a comment down below letting me know what your thoughts on the film Mank is. If you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, do you plan to watch it? Let me know in the comments below. Also, guys, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.